LeBron,
King.
greatest of all time, right?
The king.
Greatest of all time?
I can't in good conscience so congratulate the city of Cleveland or LeBron because ABBA and Donna Summer are still in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and that's just wrong. So,
well, I don't know what the Cavs or LeBron have to do with that.
Well, it's the city of Cleveland. And
you're holding it against them.
I am. Take them out of there. Get them out of there.
What about greatest of all time argument?
Second. Who's not Jordan? Give me 6 rings and maybe we'll talk.
Let's see.
Yeah, we'll see.
3 more years. He might be there.
Could you imagine him as a tight end in the NFL?
Packers could use him.
Oh, man, he would have been unstoppable.
They could use a tight end, right?
They could, yeah, maybe.
LeBron, sign him up.
LeBron,
I was reading
the king to Green Bay.
He played in high school. He broke his finger, and he still played.
Yeah, well, he's breaking a lot of things now, mainly records and everything else. And he's
Steph Curry's heart.
Steph Curry was MVP, but LeBron is he's king.
I think that he showed. I think he'd rather be the MVP of the finals than MVP of the regular season.
Most people
means he got a ring.
Yep.
So that's probably enough NBA talk. We could talk a little more if you really feel like it, but we got plenty of other stuff to talk about.
Okay.
We've got all area softball coming out this weekend. We should probably wrap up the high school spring season in general.
Yep.
We got some golf coming up at Riverside this weekend.
Big golf. Biggest tournament of the year.
And maybe we'll even get into some Brewers. I haven't paid a whole lot of attention lately because they've been on the West Coast, but they're kind of hanging around a little better than maybe people thought.
They're struggling a bit now. They're scuffling a little bit recently, but especially Jimmy Nelson, who was supposed to be their ace. So
we'll talk about that coming up on this episode of Extra Points.
All right.
Hey everybody, welcome back. We're back with Extra Points after about a week and a half off.
Hiatus.
We had a little preview show heading into state baseball, so now we got to come back and kind of wrap things up here. John Barry to my left. I'm Eric Schmoldt. This is where we get together regularly. Let's go with that.
Let's go with regularly, not periodically.
Yes. Talk about local and area sports, and I think probably should try to put to bed the high school season. We could put another one in the books. It's officially summer for the 5 or 6 weeks we get before football practice starts up again. So we got to enjoy it, but let's put the season to bed a little bit. Maybe start with baseball, where we went up last week, Tuesday, to Grand Chute and saw Craig play at the state baseball tournament for the 2nd year in a row. Unfortunately, fell in the quarterfinals to eventual state champion Burlington. It was a good ride. They just didn't quite keep that hot start going, the Cougars. They
didn't. A good start, and then it just kind of fizzled out after that. And I think when you look at it, it's, you could tell early on, with both of us being up there, Burlington was a nervous team. I mean, they had the jitters, some base running blunders, just some mental mistakes that even Scott Staudy, their coach, said, I didn't see that all year. But once they settled down, got that first run or two, I thought they really played well, and even Vic Herb said that's 13 hits. That's the most we've given up all year as a team. So the Demons just swung the bats very well. Craig couldn't capitalize on that early start and let the momentum carry over. And I thought they lost momentum when Burlington took the lead and really never got it back.
Maybe it was kind of a team in Burlington that hadn't been there in a while, that had the jitters, but then settled in and did what they did the whole rest of the season. And with Craig, you had a team that it was just there, and I think maybe a little 3-0 lead. Rested on their laurels, maybe a little bit, although
a little complacent.
Burlington's pitcher really settled in.
He did. Jacob Lindemann was, I thought after the second inning, especially the second time through the order, he was real good. I mean, threw hard. I would guess he was throwing upper 80s. Curveball was working well, and Craig didn't get a lot of quality at bats against him after that second inning. I think they had 7 hits and only 3 after the first inning. So, a case where I think if you talk to the Cougars, he was as good as advertised.
Maybe just looking ahead a little bit, it wouldn't be shocking to see a Janesville team at state for the 4th year in a row next year. And I would say the odds are with Craig to go back again. Just looking at that team, they lose 3 seniors really that really contributed to this group.
Yeah, definitely.
6 total, but 3 that really played either every day or were a pretty big part of the rotation. So that means they're going to have a lot coming back next year.
They are, and you talked about it. They'll lose the left fielder Nyborg and the center fielder in Connor Wright, but
and Jared Filter, who was really good,
back, who was lights out for most of the season as a reliever. So 3 big losses, but certainly a very, very good freshman sophomore class that kids that'll step in. And the kid I think of probably right away is Danny Blomgren. It seems like a long line of Blomgren kids that are just very good baseball players, and they'll find room for him somewhere in the lineup. And, certainly with Spry back, Kramer back, pitching wise, Brandon Dunham, right away, Vic can look at it and say, I got 3 pitchers, and not many teams can say that. So I would agree with you. I would expect the Cougars to be, a good chance to make it 3 in a row and at least win the Big 8 conference.
That pretty much puts a wrap on the baseball season. We'll have the all-area player of the year and all-area teams in next weekend's Gazette on Sunday next weekend. This weekend, we got to wrap up the softball season with the all-area teams and player of the year there. And since we last met and talked about it, Delavan Darien, I guess we didn't do one. We didn't preview the state tournament because Yvonne was gone.
Right.
So I guess I got to backtrack a little bit. So since we last were here, that was when Delavan Darien was heading to state.
Yep.
And it was an exciting couple of days there that actually wound up being over 3 days because the Comets had to suspend their game Thursday and finish it on Friday, and eventually lost 2-1 in the Division II state championship game. But Jenna Speth with a state record up there for strikeouts in a game and in a tournament. And what a way, obviously they would like to have gotten out of there with a championship, but quite the finish for Speth up there at state.
That's one of the most incredible records I think I've heard of in a state tournament type situation. 36 strikeouts in 2 games. The state record was 35 in 3 games.
Right.
What if she throws another game? What if she's Division I? Does she have 50? I mean, it's just incredible. And I think, and Coach Hank Johnson will probably tell you the same thing, and they just didn't hit. And pitching a lot of times will, neutralize a good hitting team. But a case of the Comets just couldn't bunch any hits together when they needed to. And, you come up a run short for a state title, and it'll sting. But certainly what the performance she put on is it's going to stand the test of time. That's one record that's I would think the only way that record ever gets beat is in Division I, where somebody's pitching 3 games, because you got to have at least 12 strikeouts in 3 games. I mean, and that's crazy.
Yeah, and when you're doing that, I mean, you're going up against the top talent over those 3
Exactly.
games. It's going to be hard.
Yep.
So we might see that record stand for a while, and it won't be a shock. And I guess it's not really like we're spoiling it that she's going to be the player of the year when this comes out on Sunday.
Really?
Well,
wow. You went out on a limb there. Man,
coaches picked her as the Division II state player of the year.
I wouldn't have picked her. I mean, she's got to prove herself to me. But no, I mean, that's a no-brainer. And that's the column that I wrote last weekend kind of was the same thing. It was I picked her as my best female athlete, and there are a lot of great candidates in there. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, she wasn't the only one, but I think when it came time to pick her, it was she was head and shoulders above everybody else.
I mean, we could have picked her probably just based on her pitching stats alone, but then when you know that she hit better than 500 in a really good league, had 12 home runs. And, I mean, when you put all that together, it's just
she was the home run derby queen, I think, of this past season, because I think she hit more home runs this year than any girl I remember in a long time. So hats off to her, and best of luck, Jenna Speth at Illinois Chicago, where you and I talked about it. She'll go down there as a pitcher and she'll get utilized, but they may have to find a room for her bat in the lineup.
Anything else on your mind, just to wrap up the high school year in general?
I think
what's going to stick out to you?
I think the year in general is just a lot of really, really good individual performances, some good teams, but some state champions certainly. But team wise, I guess other than the Bigfoot relay team, the track team, didn't really have any team champions. Didn't have any teams that brought home a gold ball. But boy, did we see a lot. But to
see a team, it's nice to have one team from softball go to state and a team from baseball go to state. Keeps us busy later. In the year.
And you look back and you think of just so many great individual performances this year in a variety of different sports, and some teams that stepped up and some kids that stepped up. And it's always fun to kind of look back and go back and look at the clippings and the stories to just realize, wow, it was a pretty impressive year in our area for not only a lot of teams, but a lot of athletes as well.
Congrats to all the seniors out there that graduated, and thanks for letting us write about your stories over the last few years, and we'll look forward to here in a few weeks. Won't be long before we're talking football under the lights on Fridays. So, on the local scene, the story this week, I think, is golf. For one, we've got this new tournament from Steve Stricker up in Madison, the Champions Tour.
American Family, yep.
Should be interesting
the
to
Bernard Langer Tour.
See the pros play at University Ridge, which they've never really done before. We've seen WIA play up there, and we've seen some other tournaments and things, but not really seen the pros tackle that course.
Right, and it's funny. This will be, I'm not sure who's got the coverage on the weekend. My guess would maybe be the Golf Channel or something, but it's even more for you and I because it's a course we both have played.
Right.
So it's kind of neat to see how they attack certain holes. Certainly the back nine at the Ridge is a lot more condensed, a lot tighter than the front
narrow.
nine.
I mean, if you're not in the fairway,
right.
You're in the woods.
Yeah, you're in trouble. And it'll be interesting to see not so much the pin placements because I don't think they're going to be, too unfair, but where they put some of the tee boxes.
Yeah. How long
are they going to make it? Especially on the front nine and some of those holes, if they put them back, and really challenge those guys, or if they just want fans to see good golf and have it turn into a birdie fest. They could go a lot of different ways, but, with John Daly there and Bernard Langer there, there's some guys that really kind of – you look at a guy like Langer who just seems to be in the mix every weekend when you look at the Champions Tour, and then you get a guy like Daly who, if they put the tees back, he'll be fun to watch.
It's not Tiger Woods playing at the GMO back in the day. But I mean, for a state that hasn't had a tournament since 2009 when the GMO folded up, it's just nice to see. Obviously, we've had the majors around here,
right.
And that gives us a taste of it. But to see what could hopefully become maybe an annual event, try to come back right in our backyard.
And I think ticket sales have been good. I know you have to order online, and evidently in reading a couple of tweets that, pre-sales are good. They're expecting good crowds. They've got a little grandstand built up on a couple of holes, 18, and there's a couple others that, really going to give fans an opportunity to be up close with those players. And, I think the neat thing about it is with Steve Stricker's host that if it does go well, which I expect it to, he's in it next year. He's playing next year, and that'll really give it a boost because as beloved as he is in this area, for him to play in that tournament next year is just going to make it even bigger and better.
Oh, yeah. I remember going over the GMO, and He would always have the biggest gallery over there, no matter who was there. And obviously, they didn't have the huge names there either, but people love to go out and
I bet
watch
Corey
him play.
Pavin was there.
He usually was.
Yeah, he was.
Is he going to be there this weekend?
I think he is, yes. Loves Wisconsin.
Back to Wisconsin. Around here, of course, we got the Ray Fischer State Medal Play Championship every year, the last weekend of June. Kind of unfortunate that it falls on the same weekend as this Champions Tour. I'd like to go up there and check it out.
And a lot of people have said that. I've heard other people mention that as well, that, it's kind of hard to be two places at the same time. But, I think for people going up to the American Family event, the Champions Tour, it's probably maybe a one-day thing, So go up there one day and then get down to Riverside, Saturday or Sunday or Friday, whatever it might be, and watch, the state's best amateur golfers.
It's always fun for me to, if you go out and if you're somebody who plays Riverside, even if it's just once or twice a year, the layout, you go out and watch these guys and see the lines that they take compared to where you're aiming your ball. It just gives you a different perspective of the entire course.
It's fun to watch when, a guy on, maybe on 14 hits driver and 9-iron and I'm hitting driver 3-wood and 6-iron to the green and
taking it over the trees.
It's bombs away and the players love it. There's a lot of guys that have been playing that tournament for a long time that just really enjoy it because it's a birdie fest. It's a chance for, you've got to be probably, I would say 16, 17 under to even give yourself a chance to win that tournament. I think last year 20 under, Mr. Udelhoffen won it last year at 20 under. So, the neat thing about this year is, and you're going to touch on it later in a story, is that it's the 50th year of the Ray Fischer, but it's also the 10-year anniversary of Matt Boehm's course record 62. And Matt, I'm not sure if he's a Janesville resident. It's listed as a Janesville resident, but he's in the tournament again this year, and it'll be interesting to see how he, how he does in a field that, from all indications, is pretty wide open.
You have to correct me if I'm wrong, but has it been since then, since somebody from Janesville or has won? Or?
I believe so, yes. And that was a shortened event. That was only 54 holes, and it rained. I remember sitting in the clubhouse looking at the radar and just looking at John Jensen, who's the course director and tournament director, and just going, this doesn't look good. And Matt, was still, I think, 17 or 18 under, and that's without playing a fourth round.
Might even been more than that. I think it was more than 20.
Yeah, some ridiculous, 22 maybe, something like that. But, with a 62 and
he had like a 7-shot lead.
Yeah.
So you don't.
Yeah. And, that kind of really put him on the map. And now I think this year, a kid like Sam Van Gelder, who, has dominated the Janesville City tournament the last few years and always plays well at Riverside. And the thing about the Fischer is you've got to be able to put 4 rounds in the 60s together at Riverside if you want to be in the hunt. And Sam Van Gelder is certainly capable of doing that.
A couple of the other names that you and I have thrown around, Kevin Cahill, who I think was in the final group last year.
Yep.
Tom Holla,
Holla from Colgate, who's been in it forever.
He was in the playoff 2 years ago.
Those guys, and I've certainly talked to both of them down through the years, just like they say, they love playing at Riverside. They love the course. It's always in great shape. And they like a tournament like this where, a lot of times par is a good score in the tournaments they play in because, they're so close and the conditions are tough. But at Riverside, par's not always a good score. There's holes where, especially the par 5s, where you better birdie 3 of the 4 of them probably.
And that was the thing. I was looking back at Bame's round from that record, and he eagled 3 of the 4 par 5s. And he was 7 under on the 4 par 5s.
Yeah,
that's just silly.
And you'll see, you and I both have played the course. 6 is certainly reachable, and 2.
I've eagled 10, so it can't be that
4
hard.
You can reach in 2 easily. 10, they'll bomb it down the bottom of the hill, and now with that big tree out of the way on the left side, that gives them a better angle coming in. And then 14, like you talked about, they bomb it over those trees out by the 150 marker and just flop a wedge or 9-iron onto the green. So that's where you make up because there's still some tough holes. 16 certainly is a hole that's going to be tough because they'll push the tees back, and you got to definitely make up ground on the par 5s.
Are you ready to go out on a limb and make a pick?
I'm going to stick with Tom Halla from Colgate, but don't be surprised if Van Gelder and Bame are both in the hunt.
Wow! You just toss out like 10 names, then you can't be wrong.
Okay, right? I said Halla. How's that? Who you going with?
I'm going with Joe DeChateau.
Okay, all right. Because you like to say that, or is he legit?
I think he had one of those rounds last year on Sunday where he went pretty low and got himself.
Okay.
I think he's a guy who's capable of going really low. So if you have one of those really low rounds, you put yourself right in the mix there.
And the weather, the forecast for the weekend's pretty good.
Looks pretty good.
Not overly hot, which sometimes if it's real hot, that 36 holes on Sunday is a grind if the temperature gets up there. So 18 holes on Friday, 18 holes on Saturday, and then they wrap it up. They'll make a cut after Saturday. And the final, I think it's the top 60, something like that. We'll play 36 on Sunday. And usually if you want to get out there, usually the last group on Sunday probably tee off for their second 18 at about 1:30, 2 o'clock, something like that.
Sounds good. Get out there, give it a look. Hopefully check out some golf this weekend. The Brewers still on the West Coast.
Yeah, they are.
So that makes it a little harder for people to check out.
And now
these games are
if
so
you've
late.
noticed the last week or so, the trade winds are starting to howl a little bit. And
Braun, Lucroy.
Braun and Lucroy are obviously the 2 names that, pop up the most.
I hear people have been beating down the doors trying to get Matt Garza.
I've not heard that. No, that's not been one I've heard. But no, Braun obviously is the one guy, and it's going to come down to his contract. If a team is willing to take his contract, the Brewers won't get as much in return. If the Brewers are willing to eat some of his contract, they're going to get better prospects. So it comes down to it's a money game, and do you want to build for the immediate future, or do you want to just take some prospects that might not be able to help you for a few years? So some big decisions to make for the Brewers. Like you and I said, Jimmy Nelson's struggling right now. He's been their ace all year, but he doesn't really, their best pitcher right now is Davies, who's looks like he's 15. He's 140 pounds soaking wet, but he throws strikes and keeps guys off balance. And it's going to be a wait and see, but I would expect, maybe not both of them, but I would expect either Lucroy or Braun to be gone by August 1st.
It feels weird to me to even be talking about a Braun trade, because when you think back to just a few years ago when all the steroid stuff went down, it was like they were going to be stuck with him forever because everyone else was going to hate him and just put him in the corner with a dunce hat on, and nobody was ever going to like him anymore. And now all of a sudden, he's still hitting. And
a right-handed power bat is something, a team like the Giants with Hunter Pence out, they could use him, but I've heard talk of the Cubs. He would go to left field for the Cubs. I've heard, the Mets. And it's obviously got to be in a system where a team where their farm system is plentiful enough that the Brewers can get something in return. They're not going to get any starters in return right away. I don't think you're going to get any major league guys right away, but you've got to get something in return if you're going to trade away the face of your franchise for the last 10 years.
I guess we'll find out.
Yep.
Yeah, I like that they're at least hanging around.
Yeah,
they're not as bad as everybody
They
thought
play hard.
were
They play hard. They still do a lot of stupid things, but I will say that Council gets them to play hard, and I think that's the one thing that every coach that comes into Miller Park or when the Brewers go on the road is, I'm impressed with the way Milwaukee stays after it. They don't. There's no quitting them.
I like Jonathan VR.
I do too. He's had a great year.
He's on my fantasy team. That makes me like him even more.
I have Braun on my fantasy team, so if they want to trade him with a contender, that's fine by me.
Maybe have a little more incentive.
Yes.
Well, maybe we'll reconvene if there's ever once the trades really heat up, the hot stove.
When we can fit Dave on in our schedule. I mean, he's a busy man now.
Well, I'm just thinking, it's summer. It might not be next week, folks. We'll see. We'll be back here at some point though this summer when something big is going on.
Yep.
We got to get some vacations in and stuff like that.
We do, and maybe we could bring in a guest sometime. A little guest appearance.
We've talked about it, but I don't think we've ever actually pulled it off.
No, we haven't. Well, you never know. Maybe Matt Garza would come and talk to us. If you would like to see a guest host in here, you can email us and tell us who you'd like to see and which one of us should be kicked out of our chairs here. sports@GazetteExtra.com. I'm guessing that's me. You could also leave us a review on iTunes or YouTube or Twitter or Facebook or GazetteExtra.com. Keep it rolling. We'll read it here whenever we reconvene. Yep. Thanks to Dave Vaughn for producing the show. As back always. In the saddle here, and Tevin McLeod for the tunes, and we'll see you when we see you. Enjoy the summer a little bit. Have a great summer, everyone.